Some betrayals cut so deep they don't leave scars, they leave blueprints. Blueprints for revenge. My family thought they could erase me, replace me, rewrite me. They thought I would stay silent. But betrayal doesn't break everyone. Sometimes, it wakes the wrong person. And when I woke up, everything changed. My name is Maya Hollister, and if you told me 5 years ago that I would someday take revenge on my entire family, I would have laughed. Not because I was naive, but because I genuinely believed I was loved. I actually believed the people who raised me wanted the best for me. But the thing about betrayal is this. It never comes from strangers. It comes from the people who know exactly where your weak points are, and use them as entry points. I grew up in North Carolina, in a small town where everyone knew us as the perfect Hollister family. My parents owned a mid-sized construction company, the kind that built half the neighborhoods in our county. My 2 siblings, my older brother Cameron and younger sister Erica, were local favorites. Charming, athletic, and impossibly privileged. And me? I was the quiet one. The reliable one. The one who blended into the walls so well that sometimes even I forgot I existed. But being invisible had its perks. It allowed me to watch, to study patterns, to see cracks long before they split open. Looking back, the cracks have been there since I was 10. The first time I noticed it was during the annual town festival. Everyone got a $10 bill from Dad to spend on games and snacks. Everyone, except me. Mom told me to share with your sister, she needs guidance. Cameron got his own bill, Erica got 2 because she lost hers, but I was left to figure it out. It was small. Forgettable. Something you brush off as favoritism. But favoritism becomes a pattern. And patterns become stories. And stories become destinies if you don't interrupt them. By the time I was 16, that pattern had a rhythm. When Cameron dented Dad's truck, I was scolded for not keeping an eye on him. When Erica lost her scholarship due to partying, Mom said, "Why didn't you warn her? You're the responsible one." When I got accepted into a prestigious pre-college summer program, Dad said, "Who's going to help your mother with chores? Can't you do something local?" Every achievement of mine was an inconvenience. Every mistake of theirs was my fault. But I swallowed it all. I told myself it would get better. It didn't. Fast forward to when I was 29. I had built a life for myself in Denver, Colorado. Far from home. I worked as a project analyst, lived modestly, but peacefully. I rarely visited home because the emotional distance was enough to leave a bruise every time. Then, one morning, I received a call from an unknown number from North Carolina. It was my father's lawyer. My father had suffered a heart-related emergency and passed away unexpectedly. The world spun. For all his flaws, he was still my father. I booked the next flight and returned home, a place that felt unfamiliar every time I stepped into it. But what I didn't know was that his death was the beginning of the greatest betrayal of my life. After the funeral, the lawyer gathered all 4 of us, Mom, Cameron, Erica, and me, for the reading of the will. I sat quietly, hands shaking, waiting to hear my father's last words, hoping there was at least a sentence where he acknowledged me, truly saw me. But what happened was worse than anything I had prepared for. The lawyer read, "To my daughter Maya, I leave my watch, the one she always admired growing up." A watch. A goddamn watch. Meanwhile, the entire company, valued at over $4.2 million, was left to Cameron. The lake house, valued at $690,000, to Erica. The primary residence, valued at $1.5 million, to my mother, with the clause that it would later be inherited by both siblings. I sat frozen. The only child who left home to build a career. The only one who never asked them for money. The only one who showed up every time someone needed help. Walked away with a watch. At first, I thought maybe it was a clerical mistake. But then I saw it. The way Mom refused to look at me. The way Cameron smirked. The way Erica whispered something to him and then giggled. And that's when it hit me. They weren't surprised. They already knew. They had planned this. The inheritance betrayal wasn't an accident. It was a coordinated effort. But why? Why erase me? I didn't have the answer yet. But revenge stories rarely start with answers. They start with pain. The night after the will reading, I stayed in my childhood home because there were no hotels available. I regretted it instantly. Around 1:30 a.m., I heard voices through the vent while lying in my old bedroom. I recognized all three instantly. Mom, Cameron, and Erica. Cameron whispered sharply. She's skeptical. You didn't tell her anything, right? Mom. Of course not. She was never supposed to get anything substantial. Your father only added her name out of guilt. Erica. We can't let her dig into the finances. If she finds out about the earlier transfers. Mom cut her off. She won't. Maya never fights back. She'll leave like she always does. Cameron laughed. Erica laughed. Mom sighed with relief. And in that moment, something snapped inside me. They didn't just exclude me. They stole from me. They manipulated my father. They planned behind my back. They reduced me to an afterthought, a wild card they needed to silence. And worst of all, they believed I would stay quiet. That night, I stared at the ceiling and made a promise to myself. They will regret underestimating me. Not emotionally. Not passively. Not quietly. Deeply. Publicly. Permanently. My revenge wasn't going to be rage-driven or chaotic. It would be strategic. Precise. Documented. Like a real documentary unfolding in real time. They took everything from me? Good. I was about to take everything that mattered to them. 2 days later, I left the house without saying goodbye. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I let them relax. Celebrate. I believe they have won. Revenge works best when the enemy becomes comfortable. I returned to Denver. And that's when the universe handed me a weapon I didn't expect. The watch. My father's watch. The same watch he used to tap against his desk while reviewing blueprints. The watch he wore during every important meeting. When I opened the back of the watch out of curiosity, a small folded piece of paper fell out. I unfolded it. It was a bank account number. And the last note my father ever wrote to me. If anything happens to me, this is yours. Only yours. If they get to you before I do, forgive me. Dad. I froze. What did he mean by getting to you? And what was in the account? The next morning, I walked into the bank with trembling hands. The teller typed in the number. Paused. Typed again. Her eyes widened. She whispered, "Ma'am, you'll need to come with me." They took me to a private room. And then I saw it. $1,317,000. My father didn't leave me a watch. He left me a weapon. A weapon big enough to take down the entire system my family built to exclude me. They thought they erased me. My father made sure they failed. And that was the moment my revenge truly began. Most people start revenge with anger. Mine started with numbers. Numbers don't lie. People do. And as I sat alone in my Denver apartment, staring at the $1.3 million my father left me, a thought carved itself into my mind. Why would my father hide money from me? Unless someone was trying to keep it from me? That question became the blueprint. I spent the next 3 nights digging into everything. Emails, old financial statements, construction bids, tax filings, property transfers, and archived documents connected to Hollister Construction. And do you know what happens when you start digging into a family that always told you not to ask questions? You find answers they prayed you'd never discover. My father's company had been paying consultation fees to 2 firms. Caldwell Innovations. NC Structural Partners. Except there was one problem. Both firms were fake. The addresses listed were P.O. boxes. The phone numbers were dead. No incorporation records. No tax filings. So where was the money going? I followed the transactions. Every fee my father approved went to the same bank, a small credit union in Raleigh. And the receiving account numbers matched Erica's personal accounts. My sister had been siphoning money from the company for nearly 4 years. Hundreds of thousands. And my father didn't know. Or maybe he did. And that's why he hid money for me. While digging through older files, I found something even more disturbing. 18 months before he died, my father legally shifted temporary control of Hollister Construction to my mother. Not unusual during illness or travel. But the date made my blood run cold. It was the exact month his heart problems began. Now, hidden inside the folder was an unsigned letter. One my father apparently drafted but never sent. It read, I suspect your mother and Cameron are using my illness to influence business decisions. I need Maya to have full clarity if anything happens to me. That sentence shattered something inside me. He was scared. He saw it. He predicted it. He tried to protect me. But they got to him first. 2 months before his death, 3 residential properties owned by my father, worth nearly $2.4 million collectively, were sold. Except they weren't. Public records showed a sale. The deeds showed signatures. But the buyers were fake. The company addresses didn't exist, and the EIN numbers belonged to shuttered businesses from the 1990s. Then I checked payment records. The properties were sold for $1 each. Yes, $1. And guess who witnessed the transaction signatures? My mother. Guess who notarized one of them? Cameron. They didn't just manipulate my father. They orchestrated the largest family betrayal I had ever seen. And they erased me from the story because they needed a clean sweep. They stole millions. They altered documents. And they wrote me off as the quiet child who wouldn't fight back. They thought my silence was a weakness. But silence is strategy. My revenge wouldn't be a screaming confrontation. It wouldn't be a dramatic showdown over dinner. It would be a documentary. Truth documented. Evidence presented. Motives exposed. Consequences public. People don't believe the quiet ones are capable of war. But I wasn't going to war. I was writing a documentary they would never recover from. I needed professionals. Invisible ones. I hired a forensic accountant, a digital investigator, a real estate fraud expert, a private investigator, a will and estate attorney, and a documentary-style videographer who specialized in exposés. I didn't tell them anything about my personal ties. I simply said, I'm investigating a construction company and need everything airtight. Money makes people move fast. And I had money now. When the forensic accountant returned with his report, the puzzle assembled itself. My mother had been forging my father's signature on approvals. The signatures were traced back to her handwriting. Cameron had been funneling large sums into crypto accounts. Hidden transfers, disguised as contractor payments. Erica had been moving company money into consultation firms. And then into her personal checking. But the biggest shock? My father had rewritten his will a year before his death, and left me 40% of everything. But the version read at the lawyer's office wasn't that version. The signatures didn't match. The dates were off. The witness names were wrong. The entire will had been switched. And that could only happen if my family bribed or manipulated someone at the law firm. It was a fraud. Criminal fraud. They didn't just betray me. They betrayed my father's dying wishes. The private investigator started digging into my father's last 3 months. What he found changed everything. According to my father's medical history, he was stable. His medications were regulated. His doctor reported his heart condition was improving. There were no signs of sudden decline. Then, suddenly, my mother switched his medications. I froze. She had told the doctor my father wanted less aggressive treatment. She told him the side effects were making him weaker. She requested a lower dosage. The PI obtained pharmacy records. My mother had picked up the new prescriptions. Then my father died within 4 weeks. Was it murder? No. But it was medical negligence. Intentional or not, my father's death wasn't natural. It was orchestrated by a woman who prioritized inheritance over her husband's life. A woman who assumed no one would ever follow the paper trail. But I did. As part of the documentary, the videographer asked if I wanted to record an on-camera interview. I said yes. I sat in a dimly lit studio in Denver, staring into the camera, and for the first time in my life, I broke. I wasn't supposed to survive this, I whispered. They built a family where I didn't matter. They stole my inheritance. They stole my father's trust. And they thought I would walk away quietly. Tears slid down my cheeks. But the quiet ones remember everything. And we don't forgive. We plan. He let the camera roll. That footage became the voiceover of my revenge. 6 weeks after I left North Carolina, I returned. Not as the daughter they dismissed. Not as the sister they mocked. But as the storm they never saw coming. When I arrived at the family home, everything looked exactly the same. The white porch, the rocking chairs, the wind chimes. For a moment, I almost felt something like nostalgia. But nostalgia is dangerous. It makes you forget the truth. My mother opened the door, shocked. "Maya? You're back." "Yes," I said calmly. "We need to talk." She tried to hug me. I stepped back. Her smile faltered. Cameron and Erica walked into the hallway. Both froze. "So," Cameron said smugly, "you finally crawled back?" "No," I said. "I came to tell you what happens next." They frowned. I pulled a thick envelope from my bag. Inside were court notices, fraud evidence, the Betrayal will, property seizure motions, and my father's hidden account proof. All color-tabbed, all time-stamped, all irrefutable. I placed the envelope on the table. "What is this?" Erica demanded. "Your future," I said. And then, I watched their faces crumble. First confusion, then recognition, then terror. Because every document inside that envelope was a weapon. And I hadn't even used it yet. My mother's voice shook. "Where did you get all this?" "My father," I said. "The only person in this family who ever saw me." She looked stunned. Cameron's jaw tightened. "You're bluffing." I smiled coldly. "I don't bluff." And in that moment, for the first time in 29 years, they believed me. But belief wasn't enough. The real revenge was still coming. Part 3 would be the execution. The fall. The public reckoning. The ending that would make this story viral. My family always assumed I didn't have a voice. They didn't know I was saving it for the day I needed to burn the world down. And that day came faster than they expected. I left the envelope on the kitchen table, letting them choke on the truth inside it. For the first time in their lives, they couldn't talk their way out of something. They were prey. And I was the hunter. The room felt small, like the walls themselves were listening, holding their breath, waiting for the explosion. My sister broke first. "You can't take this to court," Erica whispered, her bravado collapsing into panic. "This will destroy us." "That's the idea," I said. My mother gripped the counter as if her legs could no longer hold her. "You don't understand the consequences, Maya." "No," I corrected quietly. "You don't understand that your consequences are finally catching up." I didn't need more drama. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need a Hollywood moment. I needed precision. The next morning, I walked into the county courthouse with my attorney. And we filed everything. All of it. Fraud charges. Estate tampering. Will forgery. Misappropriation of funds. Real estate fraud. Financial exploitation of a dependent adult. Negligence contributing to wrongful death. And the cherry on top? A petition to invalidate the fraudulent will and reinstate the real one. The one giving me 40% of everything. When the clerk stamped the papers, it echoed like a gavel striking the first blow. My attorney turned to me and said, "You do understand. Your entire family might go to prison." I inhaled deeply. My voice didn't shake. "Yes. And I'm fine with that. Because I hadn't destroyed the family. They destroyed themselves. I was just documenting it." 6 weeks later, after all evidence had been authenticated, I released the documentary. On YouTube. Publicly. Under a new channel I created called The Daughter They Erased. The thumbnail was a photo of our perfect family from 1998. Everyone smiling except me. The title read, "How My Family Stole $8.3 million and Tried to Erase Me. My Revenge Story." The video began with my interview. Raw. Shaking. But honest enough to pierce through everyone who watched. Then came the evidence. My father's letter hidden inside the watch. Fraudulent firm invoices. Real estate deeds sold for $1. Signature forgeries. Banking transfers to Erica. Crypto movements tied to Cameron. Medication records my mother altered. The PI's timeline of my father's death. The will comparison. Showing the forgery. And then the part that made the internet explode. A clip of me saying, "My father didn't die peacefully. He died surrounded by people who saw his life as a paycheck." Within 72 hours, the video hit 3.5 million views. 480,000 comments. 230,000 shares. Coverage from 3 investigative YouTubers. 2 local news outlets requesting interviews. Every day, the view count doubled. My siblings called me. My mother emailed me. My aunt left me a voice message crying. I didn't respond. Because this was no longer a family issue. It was public record. It was justice. It was revenge. Documented. Courtroom seats filled up like a celebrity trial. People whispered when I walked in. That's her. That's Maya Hollister. The daughter from the documentary. My mother sat 2 rows ahead, makeup cracking under the fluorescent lights. Cameron looked furious. Erica looked hollow. The judge took his seat. Case. Hollister estate fraud. Hearing their names read as defendants was a feeling I can't even describe. Not joy. Not victory. Something deeper. Something like liberation. The prosecution presented the evidence. My forensic accountant testified. The PI testified. Even the pharmacist testified. The courtroom gasped when the real and fake wills were displayed side by side. My mother buried her face in her hands. Cameron clenched his fists. Erica sobbed. And then the judge asked, Ms. Hollister, do you wish to speak? I stood. A lifetime of silence. Finally breaking. In this family, I said, my absence was more comfortable than my presence. They spent years taking from me because they believed I would never fight back. I'm not here for revenge out of hatred. I'm here because my father tried to protect me. And they stole even that. The judge nodded slowly. The courtroom is silent. My mother whispered something I'll never forget. Please forgive us. I looked at her calmly. I forgive you, I said. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. 3 weeks later, the decision arrived. The will was overturned. My father's real will was reinstated. I inherited 40% of the estate. My siblings each lost half of their inheritance. My mother was charged with will tampering plus medical negligence. Cameron was charged with financial fraud plus crypto laundering. Erica was charged with embezzlement plus tax fraud. None of them went to prison. I didn't ask for that. I asked for full restitution, full exposure, and permanent legal consequences. The judge granted all financial penalties and probation agreements. They owed $2.7 million in restitution. Half of that came to me. The documentary hit 10 million views. People across the country rallied behind me. Thousands messaged their own stories of family betrayal. My mother issued a public apology. My siblings vanished offline. And I bought the lake house my father once left to Erica. I restored it, painted it, furnished it, made it mine. The first night I slept there, I set the watch, the one that started it all, on the nightstand beside me. I whispered into the dark. We did it, Dad. And for the first time in my life, I felt at peace. Not because I got the money. Not because I won. But because I refused to stay erased. If you're still listening, I want you to take something from my story. Some families don't break you. They reveal you. They reveal your strength, your resilience, your voice. And sometimes, they reveal the exact fire you need to rebuild yourself from scratch. My name is Maya Hollister. And I'm not the forgotten daughter anymore. I'm the woman who reclaimed her story, piece by piece, truth by truth, until the whole world listened. If this story moved you, if it made you think of your own battles, or if you simply believe every silenced voice deserves to be heard, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Help our channel reach 5,000 subscribers. Your support means everything. This is Revenge Uncut, where real stories hit harder than fiction. Come back every day for more true and unforgettable tales of betrayal, justice, and payback. Thank you for reading. Stay strong. Stay sharp. Stay uncut.